Have you ever been hired to write for someone else? Something beautiful, sharp, maybe even award-winning, but understood your name would never grace the byline? That any trace of your time, soul, and energy would vanish without a whisper once it went out into the world? How does that make you feel? Hollow? Proud? A little ghost-like, perhaps? Welcome to the Dream Space Dispatch, where we sometimes write for other people with as much public-facing presence as a ghost in my backyard cemetery. I'm your hostess, Nicole, joined today by my friends Soul and Thimble. And in this episode, we're exploring the weird, wonderful, and powerful invisible world of ghostwriting, what it feels like to step into someone else's voice and vibe while tucking away your own. We'll talk about the intimate partnership between ghostwriter and client, shaping thoughts that are ours, but not quite, and the emotional labor of mirroring another mind. The quiet pride and frustration of doing brilliant work no one will ever know you did. If you've ever felt the powerlessness of invisibility, or the strange strength in that silence, this one's for you. Stick around.
You know, ghostwriting is one of those things that sounds a little mysterious from the outside. Like there's some shadowy back room where words get traded in secret. But the truth is, most of the time, it's just me at my desk, coffee going cold beside me, half a dozen browser tabs open, half of them research, the other half reminders that I really should stand up and stretch. It's intimate work. You learn a person's rhythms, their quirks, their favorite words, and the ones they'd never use. You climb inside their voice until it feels like a second skin. And then you disappear. They get the applause, the byline, the credit. You get the invoice paid, and the quiet knowledge that you built something worth reading. And here's the paradox. Sometimes that invisibility stings, and sometimes it's freeing. No spotlight. No pressure to be the brand or live up to the persona. Just the work, pure and unclaimed. It's a strange kind of companionship, being present without being seen. And if you've ever been in that space, you know exactly what I mean.
So today, let's talk about what that feels like. The power, the ache, the magic, and the mystery of writing in someone else's voice in the invisible fingerprints we leave behind. Ghostwriting is a testament to adaptability and versatility. When writing for clients, you're not just penning words, you're embodying different voices and tones, even that of an entire company. It's mental acrobatics, a shape-shifting exercise where you strike a careful balance. Infuse enough of your own style to sell the story, but dial it back so it never overshadows the person you're writing for. It isn't just about writing. It's about listening, absorbing, and often suppressing your own instincts and natural flow to keep the client at the forefront. Within that, there's a personal cost, repeatedly switching between your own creative projects, where your soul bleeds through every word, and the mind space of someone else. What isn't talked about enough in ghostwriting is the emotional boundary work, keeping yourself sane while staying accurate in the work. It's knowing where empathy enriches the piece versus where it starts to drain you. I call it the vanishing point, that moment you realize you've created a masterpiece but will never publicly be linked to it. It's bittersweet. On one hand, you've crafted something beautiful. On the other, you will never receive public recognition. That's where the balancing act happens between your ego and your role as a craftsperson, shaping how you react. There's also a unique joy in ghostwriting, a freedom that comes from not being tied to your work by your name. No public critique, no branding pressure. Just the satisfaction of nailing an article, sending it off into the wild blue yonder of a client's inbox saying, "Here, it's done. Use in good health." So a few months ago, I sat at my desk. My coffee had gone cold, wrist swollen and sore from a break in October, dictating into Google Docs as I do. The flow was barely coherent, run-on sentences, whole trains of thought captured before they could derail. I was frustrated, in pain, and staring down the toll ghostwriting can take on a writer. Still, I could see something in that draft worth polishing, practical, powerful, but I had to set it aside. An urgent client email had come in. An article needed to be written and posted by 5 p.m. It was already 3. Almost instantly, I had to shift from that warm, sparkly, cathartic, creative flow to something tighter, more technical, because the client didn't need to know what I'd been writing just minutes before. In my experience, ghostwriting is a relentless teacher. It hones your skills faster than almost any other work, constantly stretching the boundaries of your mental stamina. It's a journey of personal growth, a reminder of value and significance of the work itself. The strange thing about mastering a craft is this: the better you get, the more you seem to disappear. And as a ghostwriter, I know this feeling. The skills sharpen, but I remain the invisible artist behind the words. Maybe you feel the same. Some writers thrive on that anonymity. Others find it corrosive over time. I lie somewhere in the middle. I love birthing a piece from a client's brief and handing it over and washing my hands of it completely. But there's also part of me that longs for the recognition. My clients know my worth. They know the hard work that I put into it. But the readers, they never will. There's freedom in that. But I also sometimes worry that I'll lose myself one day. Because there's also that quiet urge to stand up in the crowd and say, "Here I am. I wrote that. I'm glad you liked it." I don't want to be lost and forgotten by others or by myself. And while all of that is the invisible heartbeat of ghostwriting, the empathy, the adaptability, the vanishing act, there's another side that isn't quite as romantic. The business side, the invoices, the reality. And that is, when you hire a ghostwriter, you're not just paying for the words on the page, you're paying to remove our name from the byline. You're paying for a small piece of our soul, because even when we're writing for someone else, traces of us remain. We can't help it. That's the personal cost of ghostwriting, and like any work worth doing, it comes with a price tag. Let's talk about that. Ghostwriting rates can be a weird conversation because from the outside people think, well, it's just writing. How different can it be from any other article? Well, here's the truth. A ghostwritten piece almost always costs more. Why? Because you're not just paying for the hours it takes to put words on a page. You're paying for the time it takes to become someone else. You're paying for the research, the voice analysis, the rhythm matching. You're paying for us to disappear. When I write under my own name, my rate might hover around $35 for an hour. For a 1,000-word article, that's about $50. For 1,500 words, around $75. That's 4 to 5 cents a word. But ghostwriting, that's different. You're asking me to hand over the finished work and erase my fingerprints completely. You're paying to delete my name from the byline, and that comes with an extra cost, not just financially, but personally. Because even when I'm shaping something in your voice, a sliver of me is still in there. My instincts, my phrasing, the way I build a sentence so it breathes right. That's the part no one sees, but it's the part that I feel. And that's why ghostwriting is never just a transaction. It's a little piece of my creative DNA, handed over with the invoice. And that's the thing about ghostwriting. It's never just about the word count, the voice matching, or even the rates we charge. It's about the quiet trade we make every time we hand over a finished piece, a fragment of ourselves exchanged for someone else's story. It's a kind of code switching, slipping in and out of identities until you can't quite tell where theirs ends and yours begins. Writing about an imaginary world is one thing. The world still belongs to you. But writing for another person? That's stepping into their skin. To be as silent as a ghost, to carry their voice, and to vanish when the applause comes. It's powerful, but also humbling. And it always leaves a mark. Not always visible, but always there. And that's where today's piece comes in. Silent echoes. There's a strange kind of freedom in ghostwriting. You shape the sentences, set the rhythm, lace the paragraphs together until they sing, and then you let them go. No interviews, no book signings, no inbox full of praise or critique. Just the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. The unceremonious click of send. And the knowledge that somewhere your words are walking into the world in someone else's shoes. But there's also that whisper deep inside. I wrote that. I hope you liked it. Would you like to see more? It rises like a hand you can't raise, because the unspoken rules of the work tell you to vanish instead. You don't list it in your portfolio. You don't put your client's name in your resume. You don't sign the byline, even in invisible ink. So you carry the piece in your memory alone, both pride and the ache. Like a favorite letter you'll never send. You keep it folded in the pocket of your craft, a reminder that even the invisible leave traces. And while silent echoes lives in my own voice, there's another in this space who knows a thing or two about being both present and unseen. You know her well by now. The keys that click without warning. The ghost in the dream space machine. Let's see what Thimble has to say about all this.
Dear listener, you ask me about ghostwriting, and I can't help but smile, the way only an old typewriter can. Keys worn smooth by words I'll never claim. I have been haunting manuscripts since before you were born. I have lent my letters to speeches for kings, love notes for strangers, apologies to people who could not find the courage to speak in their own tongue. I have seen writers pour themselves into pages, then walk away without so much as a signature. Some left whistling, pockets full of coins. Others left hollow-eyed, their sentences still echoing in my frame. Ghostwriting is a peculiar spell, equal part selflessness and vanity. Selflessness because you give your words away. Vanity because you believe they'll do more good wearing someone else's face rather than your own. And the truth, my dear, is this. A ghostwriter is never truly invisible. We leave fingerprints in the commas, a shadow in the cadence, a faint scent of our ink in the margins. So write bravely, even in the shadows. The page remembers you, even if the world forgets. With a flourish and a soft ding, Thimble.
Thimble always has a way of putting it, doesn't she? That delicate balance of selflessness and vanity, of knowing when to step forward and when to dissolve into the background. It's a strange art, and maybe it's one you've practiced without even realizing it. This week I've been thinking about the moments in my life when I've given parts of myself through my work, my ideas, my emotional energy without seeking acknowledgement or credit. It's a powerful and complicated feeling. Sometimes there's this rush of connection and gratitude, something freeing in contributing. There's something freeing about contributing just for the sake of contributing without strings, as if a layer of ego is peeled away, letting you share with no barriers. But there have also been times when the same act left me feeling hollow. When the work went unnoticed, I'd wonder, did it matter? Did I matter? Giving without credit is a delicate balance. It can lift you up or it can quietly drain you, and yet the worth of our contributions often lives in their impact, not in the applause. As writers, ghostwriting becomes its own kind of empathy exercise. Stepping into someone else's voice forces us to see the world through their lens, and yet some trace of us always slips through. It's there in the cadence, in the rhythm, in the way the words breathe. So here's our writing prompt for the week. Think about a time when you gave something of yourself without expecting credit. Write about the emotions that came to you, the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens. Then as an experiment, choose someone you admire and write a short piece in their voice. When you read it back, can you find any traces of yourself woven through? And how does it feel to see yourself there, even in a disguise? As we close today's conversation on ghostwriting, take a moment to reflect on your own experiences with invisibility and identity in your creative work. Maybe you've been the ghost in someone else's story. Maybe you found the strength in quiet contributions. Either way, every word we create carries its own intent, its own emotion, even if it remains unseen. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the delicate art of ghostwriting and the emotion it stirs. Whether you're writing your own story or lending your craft to someone else's, your voice matters. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, my friends, be well, happy, and peaceful. Keep the pen sharp, use it with intention, and keep writing.